Hi there, I'm CBS 8's Jenny Day. So glad to have you with me as I take you around San Diego. We'll get to the cost of your Thanksgiving dinner, talk to Dr. Phil about Jeffrey Dahmer, and show you what happened to a COVID mask we buried in an experiment 1 year ago. We sadly do begin, though, with a spike in sick kids across San Diego County. Technically, 3 major illnesses that attack the lungs are circulating at once: RSV, the flu, and COVID. And this week, a child under the age of 5 was the first in the state to die from the dueling respiratory viruses that are sweeping the nation. This child had both RSV and the flu. Young children and infants are vulnerable to severe complications, especially those with underlying medical conditions or born prematurely. Now, hospitals across California are having to come up with short-term solutions to expand capacity, all to handle the surge of pediatric patients. Now, here locally, for a 3rd week in a row now, Rady Children's Hospital is at capacity, meaning all 511 beds are filled. Wait times at the emergency room have been consistently a 6+ hour wait, depending on the severity of your child. Now, in the last 7 days, 260 more kids have been diagnosed with RSV in San Diego. That's about 20 to 30 new patients a day. I spoke with the director of infectious disease for Rady's, who says most kids just need fluids and oxygen, but it's no doubt putting a strain on resources.
They are absolutely overwhelmed right now, and working long days, but every child gets seen as they need it every day, and it's challenging, but it's manageable.
Yeah, the big difference between RSV and the flu is that the flu causes symptoms across the whole body. RSV causes an inflammation in the lungs that constricts the airways. So if your kid is wheezing or really struggling to breathe, doctors say that's the sign to go in. If they are stuffy but seem comfortable, you can ride it out at home. And this flu and RSV season hit early and intense, and sadly things are only projected to get worse heading into the holidays. The peak is typically not until February. So remember the basics. Doctors say wash your hands, wear a mask while indoor public places, and stay home if you're sick, and also get vaccinated. Speaking of Rady's, you can make this holiday season brighter for patients and their families. CBS 8 is a proud sponsor to help their Light the Way campaign, which features the Rady Children's Ice Rink at Liberty Station, now in its 26th year. You can skate with friends and family, knowing proceeds will help children fighting cancer and blood disorders. Last year, nearly 50,000 visitors laced up skates to help raise funds. And you also have the chance to skate with 8 next Tuesday. The CBS 8 team will be there supporting Rady Children's Hospital. We invite you all to come out as well. Staying on the holidays, your grocery bill does keep getting higher, and turkeys could be gobbling up a lot of your Thanksgiving budget this year. CBS 8's Abby Alford hunts for the best prices in different grocery stores to get the biggest bang for your buck.
If you're hosting Thanksgiving dinner or making a dish for Friendsgiving, you might notice that it'll be a little bit more expensive this year. So we did the work for you, did some price checks at various grocery stores to see how much Thanksgiving dinner will cost you. Now, we're just talking about the basics, not at Martha Stewart Spread.
We start with an empty cart and expect to end with an empty wallet this Thanksgiving. Inflation is driving up grocery bills, so we headed out to Albertsons, Vons, Walmart, and the Mexican grocery store Northgate to see just how much the essential ingredients would cost to make our favorite Thanksgiving dishes for a family of 4. Let's start with the most expensive. Say you buy a 12-pound turkey. There's a shortage this year, so prices are a little higher. Albertsons members can get one for 69 cents per pound, or whole butterball for $17.64. Head over to Walmart and it's just over $20, and at Northgate it has the cheapest butterball for $15.48. Let's add some pre-made stuffing to the side, and Walmart wins big with only 88 cents a box. Mashed potatoes and gravy, you can whip it up for just under $4 at Albertsons. You can't forget about Grandma's sweet potato casserole with marshmallows. The bargain is at Walmart. Green bean casserole with some fried onions on top. Walmart wins again at $3.22.
How we doing? We doing good?
My baby Bexley is not impressed with the high prices of butter. close to $5 in some stores. At least it's $3.99 at Northgate. Don't forget about the last side. Depends on the brand, but canned cranberry sauce varies between $2.49 at Northgate, $1.99 at Albertsons, and the cheapest at Walmart for $1.76. Now, what's Thanksgiving dinner without topping it off with sweet pumpkin pie? At Northgate, it will only cost you $4.99. Okay, so for turkey, green bean casserole, sweet potato casserole, mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing, butter, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie, you could modestly spend between $37 to $46 on Thanksgiving dinner. Now, depending on what kind of turkey, Albertsons and Walmart could keep your costs down.
If you have a Costco membership, we've added up how much Thanksgiving dinner will cost you there, as well as what stores are honoring their prices from previous years. Just head to CBS8.com.
Interesting, Abby, thanks. And now she'll compare the cost of pre-made to-go meals and dinner out at a restaurant.
If you want to make your own Thanksgiving feast with the most basic ingredients, it'll cost you about $50 at the grocery store. But if you want to hang up your apron and go out to a restaurant or order a pre-made meal, we're working for you to find out how much all of this will cost and where you can save.
With grocery prices higher this year, many families might opt to going out to eat for Thanksgiving, but will it really save you? We start with OpenTable, an online reservation site used by many restaurants that will tell us who will be open on Thanksgiving. Now let's find who will have a prefixed Thanksgiving meal and the cost for a family of 4. If you're looking for something fancy in Ocean View, Eddie V's is $49 for adults and $18 for children. That adds up to $134. The Farmer's Table, which has locations in Little Italy, La Mesa, Bay Park, and Chula Vista, is offering a Thanksgiving feast. For a family of 4, it will cost $150. And the most affordable Thanksgiving meal is being served at Black Angus, which has locations in North County, down to the South Bay, East County, and in between for $25 per person. That's only $100 for a family of 4. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the cost of dining out rose 8.6% last year, and the cost of eating at home jumped just over 12%. So what if you don't want either, but want to enjoy turkey and all the fixings from home without cooking all day? You can pre-order holiday meals at many grocers. A classic turkey dinner at Vons Albertsons is $74.99. Sprouts will cook up a feast for $85.99, and that includes enough for leftovers. And Whole Foods is just under $90. Depending on your value of savings, when you compare cooking at home to eating out or picking up a pre-made holiday meal, you'll save money at the grocery store, but save on time if you order a prepared dinner or dining out. With a very hungry tummy, I'm Abby Alford, CBS 8.
Yeah, happy early Thanksgiving to you and yours. And people in San Diego are apparently set to spend big bucks this holiday season. A Wallet Hub survey found the average holiday budget here is $1,648. Economists say inflation does seem to be rebounding, but rent, childcare, gas, and groceries are all up. And even still, you heard that right. The average San Diegan is set to spend $1,600 on the holidays. Wallet Hub looked at 5 things in 550 U.S. cities: income, age, debt to income, monthly income to monthly expenses, and the ratio of savings to monthly expenses. Now, for perspective, Newton, Massachusetts, and Palo Alto in the Bay Area are expected to have the biggest spenders, with shoppers set to spend around $4 grand. A few other local cities that made the list: El Cajon came in at $757. Those of you in Vista are projected to spend around $1,000. Nationwide, we spent $886 billion last holiday season. That is up 14% from the previous year.
It might be that somebody who has making $90,000 a year is got a $1,000 budget for Christmas, but most folks in San Diego just aren't making that kind of money. To say an average really masks the variation that exists within our communities. The median white family in America has $163,000 of wealth. The median in Black and Hispanic families have 1/10 that amount.
Yeah, and keep in mind the average household credit card debt is close to $9 grand. And Wallet Hub says 1 in 10 adults are shopaholics. So while the season brings some expected stress, our addiction to spending only adds to it. So the advice from the experts: sure, spoil your kid, but more importantly, save what you can. Well, Mothers Against Drunk Driving is kicking off their annual The One On for Safety campaign. The time between Thanksgiving and New Year's can be the most dangerous on the road. So the campaign encourages drivers to display red ribbons on their vehicles as a reminder to plan ahead and get a designated non-drinking driver. MADD officials say around the holidays last year, more than 1,000 people in the U.S. were killed in alcohol-related car crashes.
The hope is that people will understand there are so many options to make the right choice, and there are so many consequences for making the wrong one.
MADD's nationwide campaign runs through the end of the year. Well, meantime, 2 San Diego women are suing Amazon in a proposed class action lawsuit against the e-commerce giant over shipping delays. CBS 8's Brian White spoke with one of their attorneys.
The lawsuit was filed in federal court here in San Diego, alleging that Amazon Prime's shipping guarantees have been false advertising.
If you are going to sell a service or a product and you're going to state something as concrete as 2-day shipping, then you have to follow through.
Jacob Whitehead is one of the attorneys involved in this proposed class action lawsuit, claiming Amazon Prime members who pay $139 a year for membership have been misled for years regarding shipping times.
Many times you'll purchase it and say, buy now, on a thing that says 2-day shipping, and you get the product 3 days later.
The complaint reads, Amazon's labeling, marketing, and advertising uniformly involves multiple false and misleading statements, as well as material omissions of fact. 2 plaintiffs in the lawsuit, Barbara Britton and Linda Dial from San Diego County, say Amazon's shipping delays have been a major problem for them.
Barbara is an old sweetheart, and she relies on a lot of these shipments to come on time. And so she actually started tracking it herself.
In addition to robust consumer protection laws, Jacob says California has an unfair competition law that applies here.
Amazon has a huge market share. And so when they make representations, they're squeezing other people out, but they're not actually following through with what they promised.
Legal analyst Dan Eaton read the complaint and breaks down for us what damages they're seeking.
The total value of all Californians at Amazon Prime memberships are refunded to Californians. Plus, because they are claiming fraud, they are seeking punitive damages.
So with a potential class action lawsuit like this, just how much could the damages end up being?
When you were talking about Amazon.com and you were talking about the largest state of the union, you are talking about a case in which the damages will get into the tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars.
I reached out to Amazon for comment, but didn't hear back. And this process will play out for many months before class action certification is even considered by the judge, and it could take up to several years even before a resolution is reached. Brian White, CBS 8.
Brian, thanks. And across the county, we are seeing a boom in accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. More and more people are applying for permits to build these in their backyards or garages. We sent our Brian White once again to Carlsbad, where one company is seriously streamlining the building process.
Putting up an ADU in one day sounds like a tall order, but these folks make it look easy. It all starts by hoisting up these 700-pound wall panels with a massive crane and then lowering them into the backyard.
We're lifting over the house into the backyard. Most of the ADUs go in the backyard, so this is a typical setup.
Go ahead, keep coming down about 1 more foot.
These wall panels are prefabricated at the Proteus Homes factory in Vista, and one by one, they're lowered in and set into place.
Beautiful. Keep on coming down nice and easy.
We build a whole house in about 6 hours, and so the whole structure is kind of built like Legos, just on a much bigger scale.
Some walls are simpler than others and just need to be bolted in, but others need holes cut to make room for the pipes to fit.
We have to basically cut the bottom plates so that the plumbing can come through.
And from there, it's a streamlined process.
We'll just kind of keep going around, do the exterior walls, and then we'll do the interior walls. And then we spend a little time making sure everything is plumb and level.
A few hours in, the last wall is in place.
Beautiful. Went pretty smooth. And now we're going to get everything lined up and plumbed up so that we can get ready for the roof.
These roof panels weigh over 1,000 pounds each. And with the last piece of the puzzle in place, this ADU's standing on its own, all in a day's work.
To watch a house get built in just a few hours is really awesome for all of us.
From here, it'll take another 2 months for finish work like painting, floors, and cabinetry. From start to finish, including the permitting work and laying the foundation, it takes about 6 to 8 months. Proteus Homes offers an array of floor plans and customized options too. This one bedroom is 500 square feet and costs about $230,000.
4 or 5 hours and the house is built. Feels good.
And ADUs like this one are in high demand.
We've got 30 of them to do next year already.
Looking forward to it?
Oh, absolutely. They're fun.
In Carlsbad, Brian White, CBS 8.
Boy, that is amazing. Brian, thanks. Well, meantime, more than 20,000 tech workers across 70 companies have been laid off this month. That has many people wondering which jobs are most likely to experience layoffs in the future, as well as which jobs are safe. CBS 8's Ariana Cohen is working for you. She did the research and found out some tips to follow from experts if you are laid off.
Amazon plans to lay off 10,000 people this week in what would be the largest job cuts in the company's history. Just last week, Facebook's parent company Meta announced layoffs for 11,000 of its employees. Twitter laid off 3,700 employees, which is nearly half of its global workforce. Zillow laid off 300 people at the end of October, while Snapchat confirms it will lay off 1,300 people. Are you secure with your job? What careers are most likely to experience reductions or eliminations? And what jobs are here to stay? According to Contract Book, a contract management platform, 5 jobs expected to disappear by 2030 are travel agents, taxi drivers, store cashiers, fast food cooks, and administrative legal jobs. The 5 jobs most unlikely to disappear, at least in the near future, are lawyers, human resources, tradespeople, IT system analysts, and medical professionals. Donna Dassinger, cardiology manager at Sharp Memorial Hospital, is grateful she has job security and says there are many healthcare careers in demand right now.
I've always felt that my job as a nurse is secure. X-ray techs are in huge demand, case management, social workers, so the healthcare industry is really in need of a lot of professionals.
Working for you, I researched some of the best things you can do immediately if you get laid off. Here is what I found. Request a laid off letter from Human Resources to bring to future job interviews. Find out how to continue your health insurance. Register for unemployment compensation. Be confident during your new job search and apply for jobs in high demand. I reached out to the San Diego Workforce, which is also a good resource for local job seekers. Claudia with SD Workforce says every employer is required to submit a WARN notice or worker adjustment and retraining notification if they lay off more than 50 employees at a time.
We have folks that can help you along, whether you're looking to stay in your current industry that you're in, or if you're looking to transition to a different industry, we might be able to help you.
Working for you, this is Ariana Cohen for CBS 8.
And according to a recent survey, nearly half of all employees are either looking for a new job or are planning to in the next year. Fewer people, especially younger workers, are staying in jobs for years at a time. As CBS 8's Steve Price reports, there's a new growing trend called quick quitting.
It's called quick quitting. You get a new job and then you quit in the first 90 days, and it happens more than you probably think. Nearly 1 in 3 new hires will quick quit, and recruiters tell me they think this is a trend that's going to stick around for a while. According to the 2022 Job Seeker Nation report, the #1 reason people quit is that the day-to-day role was not as expected.
I was hired to be this junior buyer, and then I ended up doing coffee for the supervisor.
Bad leadership was also high on the list.
The owners weren't great, and they wouldn't let me pee on the job. It was terrible.
And a third of those surveyed said they'd quit without even having another job lined up.
I'm jealous of Gen Z because what I see out of both millennials and Gen Z is they're not willing to put up with the same things I put up with.
William Teacup, president of Recruiting Daily, had a hand in creating the job seeker survey. And what he quickly discovered is that many companies do a horrible job on day one, setting employees up to be successful.
We spend so much money, time, money, and energy in recruiting, which is romance. We want to romance people into this position, which is important. And then we drop them off at onboarding and go, hey, good luck.
You need to help employees, new employees especially, feel welcome and like they belong.
Claudia Huerta with the San Diego Workforce Partnership agrees that many companies need to do a better job of onboarding. But she also says potential employees need to start asking questions during the interview process to make sure they clearly understand the expectations.
Like, what's it like to work here? What's a typical day look like? What does success look like in the first 90 days?
Between gig jobs like driving for a rideshare company, being a nanny,
good dogs,
or dog walking, younger workers know they don't have to stay in a job they hate because there are several other ways to make money until they find that next great thing.
Life is too short for bad jobs.
Experts believe the pandemic played a big role in this shift.
If you went through that and you didn't reevaluate your life, something's wrong.
Williams says workers now seem to be a lot better at dealing with ambiguity and are more than happy to freelance while looking for that right fit.
Some of those opportunities are going to fail, and some of them are going to be wonderful, but they're going to learn a lot of different things rather than staying in a job that doesn't reward them, for a boss that isn't an advocate, for a company that they don't love.
By the way, older workers are catching on to this too.
Life is too short not to follow your heart and do the work that you're here to do.
70-year-old Sydney Bermides has now quit multiple jobs.
2 days at a McDonald's, a day and a half at a car wash.
In Pacific Beach, Steve Price, CBS 8.
Yeah, thousands of workers with the University of California are on strike. Nearly 48,000 graduate students walked off the job. The UAW, the union that represents teaching assistants, grad student researchers, and tutors, is taking part in the strike. Grad students say they want higher pay to keep up with California's rising housing costs. UC says it is currently in contract negotiations with the union. The union says it plans to strike until demands are met. Well, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer series, is Netflix's second most watched series ever. It's a dramatization of the life and story of notorious serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. So this week on the Dr. Phil show, he interviewed real-life victims and family members of Dahmer, and some are very frustrated with the portrayal of the killer. Our Heather Meyer sat down with Dr. Phil to hear more about that and why Americans are so fascinated with true crime.
Cannot, for the sake of me, understand why anyone would want to glamorize that guy at all. That's sick.
Dr. Phil, we hear the testimony from the victims, from relatives of the victims. What did you learn in talking to some of these people?
Well, I talked to two men that were raped and tortured but escaped without getting killed. Preston Davis and Billy Capshaw, that talk about who this really is, what he's really like, what he really does.
He beat me so hard that I of course yelled, but if I yelled, he would hit me harder to stop the yelling. I just gave up.
They think the Netflix series glamorizes and sensationalizes and tries to contextualize Jeffrey Dahmer in a way that doesn't excuse his behavior, but tries to put a frame around it. And they're saying the only frame around this guy is that he is evil.
I was face to face with
Satan himself.
There are so many people who are fascinated with true crime stories, and that is why this Netflix docuseries has been so popular. What is wrong with Americans that we are almost voyeuristic looking at this?
There is a voyeurism, but that curiosity to a degree is normal and can be helpful if it wipes away naivete that exposes people and lets them look past things that give them a bad feeling in their stomach. You don't want to look past those things. His father did that. I air some never before seen footage of me interviewing this father that missed so many red flags with his own son that lives could have been saved if he hadn't done that. I mean, involving his son pre-murder spree with dead animals and sexuality.
And he was touching the insides of these animals. That he just sort of got hardwired neuronally into connecting the sexual pleasure with this type of activity.
Is there any other way to explain Jeffrey Dahmer, Dr. Phil, besides pure evil?
There's something called the dark triad, which has to do with psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. And when those three things come together, it's a perfect storm, and you get this kind of behavior. And fortunately, it's rare, but when you get it, it can wreak havoc in people's lives, as it did here. And so many people enabled this that you just are going to wind up screaming at the screen when you see some of the things that allowed this to happen.
That's our Heather Myers there with Dr. Phil. Thank you. Interesting conversation. Well, the city of San Diego is facing a question when it comes to smart street lights, public safety versus privacy. The city recently adopted a new surveillance ordinance designed to vet and approve all forms of surveillance technology used by city departments. But the Police Officers Association has concerns over how this will impact their ability to keep San Diego streets safe. CBS 8's Richard Allen digs into this new law and how a 6-year-old transaction sparked the debate.
Well, that's right. When the city of San Diego installed more than 3,000 of these so-called smart street lights back in 2016, equipped with cameras capturing video in real time, their original purpose was far different from what it eventually became, leading to a contentious battle between public safety and civil liberties. When former Mayor Kevin Faulconer unveiled the $30 million smart streetlight program 6 years ago, it was initially meant to monitor traffic patterns. And while this technology was ultimately never used for that, San Diego police found a new purpose.
They've been incredibly valuable for the police department.
Sergeant Jared Wilson is president of the San Diego Police Officers Association. He says the surveillance video captured by these streetlights has proved crucial in solving a number of violent crimes, including the deadly shooting at a Church's Chicken in 2019.
Smart streetlights solved that case.
And while this technology has been a boon to police, it also blindsided many community members.
All of this technology was rolled out and community members had no idea about it.
Genevieve Jones-Wright is the founder of Trust SD, which stands for Transparent and Responsible Use of Surveillance Technology, a nonprofit formed in response to this lack of notice.
The issue was that there was no transparency and accountability up front when that purchase was made.
Monica Montgomery Stepp is San Diego City Council President Pro Tem. While she did not sit on the council when these smart streetlights were purchased, she says she understands why so many San Diegans were alarmed to learn about them.
We have a history of that in this nation where we surveil communities of color and low-income communities more than other communities. And so there's always a heightened concern when you hear about cameras on streetlights that you had no idea about.
There were absolutely no rules in place, so there was no oversight, no accountability.
In response to these concerns, the city decided in 2020 to cut direct access to the video being captured by these streetlights, providing time to work on sweeping new regulations to oversee all surveillance technologies used by city departments, including the police. Those new rules were passed by City Council in August.
We have a process set so that we balance our people's privacy rights with what we're doing, acquiring as a city.
Under this process, which TrustSD helped create, police and other departments must now document and report all forms of surveillance technology they use available to the public, including in-person meetings with the communities where they'll be used. Also, a special 9-person volunteer privacy advisory board appointed by the mayor and approved by city council will include community members as well as experts in law, civil rights, and high-tech security. Its role will be to vet these surveillance tools.
Ask the tough questions, make the recommendations to City Council.
It will then be up to City Council to sign off on the specific tools being adopted. Montgomery Steps says she recognizes the use of technology as an investigative tool.
We don't necessarily want to prohibit that. What we want to do is ensure that we know what we're getting into.
We're not opposed to oversight in how they're used. We don't want to become a surveillance state or anything like that.
But the Police Officers Association does have concerns over how this work under the surveillance ordinance, which must be completed in the next 10 months, will get done in time.
As it adds a massive amount of bureaucracy to what we do.
Wilson says thousands of hours will be needed to meet the new law's requirements, calling it an unfunded mandate.
We're going to be taking officers off the street to get this done. There's no extra funding for it. There's no extra positions. Public safety will suffer as a result of this.
Privacy advocates, though, dismiss those concerns as overblown.
I honestly don't think it's going to be a burden on their resources at all. And I really do think that they should welcome being at community meetings and participating.
The Police Officers Association says access to these technologies, from body-worn cameras to high-tech forensic tools, is critical to combating crime.
We can't afford those technologies to be turned off in many cases.
If there are issues, my door is open.
Montgomery Steps says that the city and police need to work together as the process moves forward.
But the community deserves transparency, and I think this is the least that we can ask.
And city departments, including the police, have until September 10th of next year to go through the process to gain council approval for the surveillance tools they're currently using. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you any updates.
Yeah, thank you, Richard Allen, with that special report. Well, also this week, former President Donald Trump formally entered the 2024 race for president. He spoke in front of a crowd for an hour at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida on Tuesday.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Yeah, a lot of interest, a lot of reaction on CBS8.com. We are still a ways out, but we will certainly see what happens. Well, billions of face masks were manufactured and worn during the pandemic. Yeah, many people are still wearing them, but in the last 2.5 years, we've also seen a lot of masks littered everywhere, really taking a toll on the environment. So we wondered what would happen if we buried a mask for a year. Our Sean Stiles did just that to see how much it would break down, if at all, in this Earth 8 report.
So these are the face masks that I think about 95% of the people during the pandemic and still today are wearing. However, they do not break down. So we're going to throw this in the ground and see what happens. All right, so let's just go ahead and throw it in the ground and throw some dirt over the top of it and see what happens over time.
That was last winter, and since then I found several studies that show these masks take 450 years to break down and last as long as diapers and plastic bottles. If you look at mass pollution going back to 2020, it would equal 7% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch of plastic that floats in the Pacific.
At the height of the COVID pandemic in 2020, we were going through about 4.3 billion of these every day.
Mitch Silverstein is with the Surfrider Foundation and says a lot of these masks didn't get disposed of properly.
It's not like people are bad actors and going and just throwing these into the ocean, but you can see, I mean, look at this. You open your car door and if you got one sitting at the bottom, it just flies out and it's gone. So that's why we see these everywhere.
Being made of plastic, these masks don't decompose in the traditional sense. So that's why it's so important to keep them out of the environment.
So this planter is where we buried that mask last winter. This is my planter where I grow all my vegetables. So a lot of fertilizer goes in here. I compost as well. I throw my eggshells and cuttings from when I'm doing some cooking. So if anything's going to break down, it's going to be in here. Let's dig in and see what we find.
The truth is, we don't even know how long it really takes to completely biodegrade.
There it is. And just like I expected, these things don't break down. They're like cigarette butts or baby diapers. They literally last for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's unbelievable.
You know, estimates go from anywhere to 400 years to more.
Silverstein says these masks just break apart into smaller pieces.
Until they become microplastics. And these microplastics, in addition to completely trashing our ocean, have been found on every corner of the earth, including inside our bodies, inside mother's milk, and even placentas.
In 2020 alone, factories produced over 52 billion masks. But here's the scary part. It's estimated that 1.6 billion ended up in the ocean.
Before 2020, I don't think we ever saw these. We never saw masks enough to be like an actual item on our beach cleanup data sheets. And now we've picked up literally thousands and thousands over the last couple of years.
So you're probably asking yourself, what do I do if I'm still using one of these masks? Well, Surfrider has a couple suggestions. One is make sure you dispose of it properly. But what they'd really like to see you to do is invest in a reusable mask that you can sanitize yourself. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
Wow, wow, wow. Sean, thank you so much for that. Well, we will also soon be saying goodbye to styrofoam food containers in the city of San Diego. The city council just passed a ban on styrofoam products. The ban was first passed back in 2019, but couldn't be enforced because of a lawsuit. To settle that suit, the city agreed to prepare an environmental impact report under the California Environmental Quality Act. The ban is now set to take effect in April of next year. Well, for the first time since 2018, Taylor Swift is going on tour. Have you heard? It created a near hysteria among Swifties trying to score tickets. This includes back-to-back concerts at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles next August. But demand for pre-sale tickets was so overwhelming this week that sales to the general public planned for Friday have now been canceled. CBS 8's Richard Allen has more on the concert chaos.
Well, that's right. This chaotic cancellation of ticket sales now has the spotlight on Ticketmaster, and some members of Congress are demanding action.
It's me. Very down to earth. I mean, I love it. It's fun. You know, my daughter loves it. I love it. It's fun to listen to.
While there's no doubt Taylor Swift is beloved by millions, the disastrous process to buy tickets to her upcoming Eras tour has been reviled.
I was upset personally, and it just sucks.
Jillian Granfield and her mom were hoping to get tickets before Ticketmaster announced that sales to the general public scheduled for tomorrow have been canceled. Ticketmaster blamed the cancellation on extraordinarily high demands on ticketing systems and insufficient remaining ticket inventory to meet that demand.
It's a little disappointing and stresses people out. There are a lot of true hard Swiftie fans out there that would be devastated if they couldn't get tickets.
And that devastation has already set in for millions of fans who were locked out of pre-sale ticket purchases this week. Ticketmaster says its computer system received 3.5 billion requests, 4 times its previous all-time record, essentially overloading the system.
Pretty much once we were in the queue, they stopped and said, like, your queue's been paused. And it sat there for well over 2 hours, just like that.
This is also renewing focus on Ticketmaster, which merged with Live Nation in 2010, as some political leaders and state attorneys general are calling for an investigation into whether Ticketmaster has too much of a monopoly on ticket sales for high-profile concerts like this.
We're seeing a situation where people are trying to use the service and aren't getting the product that they've paid for, the product that they were promised. And that could be an indicator that there's not enough competition in the market.
For Julie and Jillian Granfield, they're more focused on scoring tickets and not the legalities behind it.
We got to see T. Swift. We love T. Swift.
And just yesterday, Senator Amy Klobuchar wrote this letter to the head of Live Nation Entertainment, accusing the company of abusing its position in the market and demanding answers, giving the company until next Wednesday to respond.
Yes, so interesting, Richard. Thanks. Congrats to those of you who did score tickets. The rest of us, hopefully there's no bad blood. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for staying informed. Hope you join me each week as I take you around San Diego. For CBS 8, I'm Jenny Day. Take good care of yourselves.